What places are going to be less impacted by climate change? If this was asked before, I kindly ask you to redirect me to that post. Climate change is going to affect all the planet. But certainly some places are going to suffer more than others. What are those places where climate models predict the less changing for the upcoming decades? For simplicity, let's leave economic factors aside. Because industrial civilization is a hypercomplex system built on finite resources that depends on stability, massive flows of energy and materials, you cannot exclude the factor of systemic collapse and its impact on wherever you find yourself. If an area is only viable due to the temporary abundance of fossil fuels, you can rule that out. In terms of only climate, very reductionist, it depends on the timeline, but the billionaires seem to like New Zealand. As a general rule, you probably want to be heading towards cooler climate zones, somewhere with plenty to fresh water, soil, forests, and not too densely populated. Within the United States, I'd say places that are population dense, have high taxes, and are economically important. A place like New York or Chicago have enough taxpayers, in a relatively small area, and a lot of wealth, which means they can afford and justify massive infrastructure projects and preventative measures. It's the same reason other massive infrastructure projects, like decent public transportation, is possible in these cities. Population density and large tax base make it possible. People keep proposing the massive and expensive project of expanding Manhattan southward, because land is so valuable there. It's one of the few times that land reclamation is economically viable. But there's a reason people aren't saying the same for Charleston, SC. Sure, a small town in the Midwest might not have heat waves. But when a natural disaster does happen, you'll need to justify the resources you need compared to other places that are much more important. Look at how Asheville, North Carolina, or New Orleans fared after major natural disasters compared to New York with Hurricane Sandy. This will be true for the state level too. When push comes to shove, are states going to prioritize water resources for their major cities or their small towns? Let's do a thought experiment. Let's say there's some small town, call it Oasisville, that, for whatever reason, is sublimely immune to the ravages of climate change. Either the Oasisvillers are able to keep it a secret in perpetuity, in which case I wouldn't be able to answer this question, or they aren't. What happens when 9 billion people find out about Oasisville and descend on it en masse? Can Oasisville weather the civil unrest that's sure to follow? Some place may be less impacted by the direct effects of climate change, but the indirect effects are being underestimated. Food shortages, as changing temperature patterns lead to the area's traditional crops failing. We are already seeing diseases spread because of climate change. Canine hearthworm is moving steadily north from the southern states. Valley fever is increasing in California. The hotter atmosphere threatens both deeper droughts and more intense rainstorms. Failing snow cover thousands of miles away can threaten your water supply. The danger of wildfire can arrive suddenly to an area that is unprepared. Infrastructure failure from excess summer heat is even a possibility. There's somewhat of a paradox. The mid to high latitudes are going to see the most warming, polar amplification, with associated changes in the water cycle, ecosystems, hazards, etc. But the endpoint is more likely to remain livable, whereas the tropics are going to see less absolute warming and change, but that might be enough to tip them into very inhospitable conditions, e.g., excessive heat.
Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss our next exciting video.